All right, I'm Sagamore Hills, Trustee Paul Schweikert. Sorry we took a little longer, but take it in, tell us about your community, and we
I'd like to
appreciate you
thank the
coming.
Chamber for having us today. I want to let you know, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the owner of Spennato's lives in Sagamore Hills, so we like to think that good cooking and good government comes out of Sagamore Hills. And if we're going to talk about where we're at today or where we're going to go in the future, I've got to touch a little bit in the past. The first time I got elected was in 1992, and in the second month, the state of Ohio had proposed to take the Children's Psychiatric Hospital on Down Road, it was a 93-acre site, and turn it into housing for convicted juvenile felons. And that was month 2 in office. And I'm going to go somewhere with this story. In 2 months, Spearbrecker was a trustee, Jim Tittle was a trustee, the three of us did a petition drive, we killed that in a 2-month period. Later that year, in December, we had at the adult facility, the old Western Reserve Psychiatric Facility, Popeye Johnson called a cab on New Year's Eve, he was a 3-time killer, and went home for the holidays. So we had our hands full in '92 with mental health problems. And I bring this out because at the time we started off on a real bad foot. Sagamore and mental health were on a terrible foot. By '98, Spearbrecker, myself, and Rosemary Snell had put in an offer. We asked Rosemary to go down to mental health and put in an offer on 192 acres. And we purchased this land to keep it forever green space. So we did that in '98. And then in 2001, we asked the Nordonia Hills School Board if they wanted to purchase that 98-acre site. And they said sure. They ended up buying that. And then just recently they sold it. But it brings us up to the state of where we're at today. You know, we're still dealing with mental health, and I want to make a point here. Last year, the three of us, the 3 trustees in Sagamore, you talk about that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. Well, we almost had to flip the switch and kill it because of lack of funding. The state took $340,000 of our funding that we operated on. So we were in a quandary. And what happened is we were at a Northeast Regional Township Association meeting, the 3 of us. And after the meeting, John Zaccardelli, one of our trustees, and Dave DePasquale, a trustee, were convincing about how can we get money? We're missing this revenue. And they started talking about a jet. Well, now, next week, on Monday, we're going to finalize a JED with mental health in Walton Hills. So something that started off on a wrong foot in '92 is coming around. We're 20-some years down the road now. We're going to have this JED, and we're probably going to get $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue. And we're planning on putting all that money into our infrastructure, which you know, you either save money, you got to cut your expenses or you save money. And that brings me to my point, because DePasquale did the JED for us. He was a trustee that stepped up to the plate, got the JED through with Walton Hills, and that was his portion. What I worked on, last year we tried to get a regionalization with police with Northfield Center Township. Their voters rejected that idea. They'd rather spend more money for the sheriff, which we didn't have a problem with. So that washed out. Well, after that, we looked at maybe regionalizing our dispatch. And I know that our chief started talking to Chief Golden in Macedonia, and it was just preliminary talks. And as this year ran on, we were having problems with our dispatch. And we had a catastrophe in June. We had a murder-suicide, we had a lightning hit our tower. And fortunately, we were able to go to Chief Golden, Mayor Kupta, Council Member Hannikin, and all the other council members, and say, you know what, we were planning on doing it sometime this year. Can we do it now? And I know they talked to the dispatch supervisor Becker, and those entities managed to pull this together in an emergency situation. So we're actually saving money in Sagamore by not spending as much as we had. And Macedonia, it's turned out to be a win-win. Which brings us down to the last trustee, was Zaccardelli. What did he do this year? Well, he worked on a $4.2 million grant for Sagamore Road, and he worked on it with Mayor Nihas right here in Northfield Village. And they managed to get 3 mayors together in John. They all left their egos at the door, and between the 4 of them, they were able to bring home this grant for $4.2 million. So they're going to pay that by October. And that's gonna help the entire area. That road's been nothing but an eyesore and a hazard, and it's been 20 years in coming. So we're proud of the efforts that the board has done, and over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of good people, but I have to say, at the present, what we're doing right now is we're telling our residents what we told them 2 years ago. We plan on no levies this year and next year. We had a fiscal meeting this year with our fiscal officer, Scott Gale, the entire board. We were all, there's a consensus there. We're not going to go out for any levies, flat out. The only debt Sagamore has is we have a $100,000 debt, and the only reason we're carrying it is because it's interest-free. So it'd be foolish to pay it off. So our township right now is in a very good position. And as we go forward, looking into next year, here's what we're going to try to do. Either keep continuing to cut our expenses or finding new ways of revenue. And by that, if we can regionalize and save money in any area, we're going to give it a hard look. Because whether communities around here or around Ohio want to realize it or not, that's the future of government in Ohio. And I'll say this, when you look at the state of Ohio, I want you folks to know, the state of Ohio right now did not cut taxes on the state level. They shifted them. So all this local government money that we're losing, they're spending. And right now the state of Ohio is spending the second most amount of money they've had in the history of the state. So it's a fallacy if they say we're cutting taxes. No, they took your money. So they say, like, when you're speaking in public, it's like starting a love affair. Any fool can do it, but it takes a man of considerable talent to know when to end it. So with that, I want to thank you.